Welcome, everybody, to Traction Thursday. Today, we are honored by your honor. We're honored to have as our guest speaker the Honorable Mayor Connie Boyer. Thank you. I had it memorized a second ago. So let's give the mayor a warm welcome.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So it's an honor to be here, and thanks for people online for tuning in. And I'm just going to highlight some perceptions, some little factoids about Fairfield and Jefferson County, and then we'll go into some Q&A. We'll talk about City too, and then we'll do some Q&A. So I'll try to be pretty brief. But first, I just want to tell you my background. I grew up here in Jefferson County. My dad always said I'm sixth generation in this county. And, you know, on my dad's side, there were farmers and bankers. And I spent 24 years in this building being a banker. And my old boss is in there. And so I've got that background to kind of give a couple reflections on. And actually in between banking stints, just as an entrepreneur, I had a girlfriend, and her mother and friend painted and wallpapered. And they were getting older, and it was getting tougher, and we said, we can do this job, right? And so we started our own little business. And I probably lasted about 6 or 8 months and decided this job is not for me, to get up every day and put on the worst clothes I can find. But she continued on and had a very successful wallpapering and painting business for, you know, families, individuals, et cetera. So good for her. So then I went back to banking, and then while I was banking, I did my own little entrepreneurial thing and saw an opportunity where we needed a nicer space for business people to bring their clients here to Fairfield. So my husband and I opened a bed and breakfast. It was kind of a crazy idea, and when he first pitched it, I said, well, are you gonna run it? Because I'm working at a regular job, right? And he was a counselor. He had a counseling business, private counseling business, and so we also had that as an entrepreneurship little thing in our family. And so we are just now closing that business, and it was great fun. But at the time, you know, we had a couple old hotels, and again, we just saw an opportunity to help our community, and we had a lot of fun with it. We met people from all over the world, and it was a lot of fun. So, and then I had an opportunity to go over to Edward Jones. So that's what I'm currently doing, is as an Edward Jones financial advisor. And again, even though a lot of people have heard of Edward Jones all over the country, you run that business in the way that you want to in your branch, as long as you're ethical, you know, profitable, and doing the right thing for the client. So we have very strong values in that area. But you can focus on, in that view, you can focus on whatever you want. There have been advisors who focus on insurance. There's advisors who focus only on retirement plans for businesses. There are people who focus on stocks and bonds, individual stocks and bonds, and people who focus on mutual fund business. So it's, you know, and that's all over the gamut. So it is a very entrepreneurial business. And I'll just say one thing about that business. It's as Stuart knows, and he's been in the business a long time, but it's a challenge to get started. And one of the things that helped me, and I think this is an important thing for any entrepreneur, is in that business, you have to be on the phone all the time calling people, you know, because you're trying to find the people that want to work with you. And I'll never forget, I was at, I don't even know, or maybe listening to something from Edward Jones, and they said, you know, when you're first in the business, some days you go in and you go, I cannot pick up this phone today. It's killing me. I don't want to talk to another person. I don't want to hear another no. But the person said, it's like taking out the garbage. You got to take the garbage out every day. You got to take the garbage out every week. Is it a job you want to do? Nope. But you got to do it. So as an entrepreneur, just remember that. You got to take out the garbage. There's going to be things you don't want to do, but you got to do it. Okay? So that's my background a little bit. But let me go back to Fairfield. Fairfield's had a very strong entrepreneur history. We go back 120, 130 years. The early 1900s, what businesses were here? Wagon Turney Works, building wagons. And they built quality wagons, and they were very successful. And then, times changed. We got the car, right? And they didn't change with it, and that went out of business. So there's another important piece of information. You got to be flexible, got to be willing to change with the business. Sometimes the business becomes a little bit different than what you thought. Also, Loudon Machinery was around at that time. And they were around for a long time. My dad actually my grandmother worked there too, but my dad worked there in sales for a long time. And, they had barn designs that went all over the world. And they industrialized farming, moving hay from, instead of using manual labor, they had these big, claw-like things that lifted that hay bale and across the barn and then dropped it. So much easier way to do it than the manual labor. So those are a couple of big things they did, and of course that closed many years ago, and now we have Loudon Lofts. So it's a great repurpose of that building. But in more recent years, in the 1900s, we have examples of Dexter. Dexter's been around a long time. Commercial laundry. My great aunt was a model for them, actually, and some old pictures. It's great. Agro-industrial plastics, that plastics company. And from them, there were some other companies, but we have Nelson Company, H&H Mold. So a lot of those companies were helping each other, right? And one thing that I want to say, particularly from the banking point of view, if you ever heard any of these people speak, you will know that sometimes they saw an opportunity, they knew their banker. They might not have had a lot of money, but they saw the opportunity, they had a business plan, and they had integrity and character where their banker took a risk. And again, that's just so important from the banking perspective, is if you have an idea, get to know your banker, get a good business plan. It doesn't mean you have to have all the money in the bank necessarily. That always helps. But your character is important for getting that relationship with your banker, because sometimes they will take a risk even if the money doesn't look like it's quite there yet. So, and we have examples of that going on in our community right now. And then more recently, we had Sunnybrook. And there's a lot of them out there. I'm just picking out a few. We got people in the room, right? Denise and Galen. I've known Denise for 40 years, and it was Eric who liked to bake bread, wanted to tell other people how to bake bread, and she was the graphic designer. So they just threw up a little website and just see what has come. But they also saw a need, and they did something they liked. So kind of similar with Sunnybrook, the old Sunnybrook that's now been sold. But we had Betty Howe taking care of people, and a business person in town saw what she was doing. She had the passion to take care of people who needed help. And lo and behold, they put some money in it, and they built all these Sunnybrooks and made a lot of money for a lot of people. So that's the story in a nutshell. But again, it's seeing the opportunity, seeing somebody who believed in what they were doing, and somebody who was passionate about what they were doing. In the 90s, we had Silicon Valley here, right? A lot of software companies that were doing stuff. Lisco saw an opportunity, right? When the internet came along, and Lance saw that cutting edge opportunity and took advantage of it for Fairfield. And what has that done for Fairfield? We can't even measure it at this point. Huge. Green building supply. Again, a lot more interest in green, sustainable materials, et cetera, et cetera. So they put up a website. They're doing business all over the country and probably all over the world. They test their own products. Again, they saw that opportunity of something new coming, and they knew more people would like it. Everybody's, we could go on and on with the examples here in our town. Those are the ones I want to talk about. Again, the banking issue, good business plan. Also, I didn't mention market research. Do your market research. Do we need that in town? Personal character, integrity. Be careful not to walk a line of this is legal, that's not legal. I've seen that in the banking world. Seen really smart people have a really great idea, but then kind of walk the line that was maybe iffy and didn't work out so well. So that character is so important, and that business integrity. Again, be ready to pivot. When we first opened our bed and breakfast, of course, we didn't have a reputation. So the first year, you not believe the hours I spent giving tours of the bed and breakfast. I just thought, well, people will know me. They know we have a nice house, blah, blah, whatever. And that didn't happen. They want to come see it before they bring mom here. So that was something that we just didn't plan on, but we had to pivot and do it. Be willing to take out the garbage. Be willing to do what your employees are doing, because sometimes you might have to help, particularly in a very small business. So those are, again, a few highlights about Fairfield and a few perceptions on my part about what's needed when you're starting an entrepreneur business. Actually, the other day I said to my husband, we were driving home, and this house that we've been living in a year, right after we bought it, we got our power washer and sprayed the side of it down because that gets kind of mucky on the side. So I'm driving down the road, and I said, there's a lot of houses that have this muck. Here's a business idea for a high school student. Go buy a power washer. I don't know what they cost, $200-300. And then take that power washer, go look at houses, and knock on the door and say, hey, I'll power wash your house for whatever it is, $50, whatever the going rate is, whatever they think is fair. And I bet you could start just a little tiny small business doing that, because there's a lot of houses that need that muck pushed off their siding, and the house looks new again. And that would just spiff up our houses. So I'm just throwing that out as an idea for our high school students.
Just saying.
Yeah, just saying. That could be done.
That's right.
Window washing while you're washing.
That's
Right? And window washing.
Cleaning gutters.
Right? Right.
Right.
And the truth is, right now, we have a lot of businesses, several businesses in the trades where people are fast approaching retirement age or maybe already there. And also there's some regulations changing, and some of those people say, I'm out when that regulation changes. So there is opportunity in the trades. So if you're interested in trades, go talk to one of those people who already has that small business, see if you can work under them, learn the bread and butter. There's opportunity there.
There you go.
Definitely. So let's open it up to
Bob, why don't you
kind
come
of
on up
questions.
here and you can help facilitate the community discussion. Let's
Great.
welcome Bob Ferguson.
All right. I think we're gonna let this rove, and I'm gonna. All right.
Yeah. So, and Bob, before we get started, one thing I want to say about the city perspective is, the city mostly is running the city, right? Streets, water, sewer, library, park and rec, those kinds of things. However, what the city can do is give opportunity for things to happen and lay some groundwork. Like since I've been mayor, a couple of things that we've done, particularly to prep for housing, is that we have a lot of small lots in town, but that couldn't be built on because of the size of them. Either a house burned down, and because of our regulations, you couldn't build a new house on there. So we have done a zoning out southwest part of town, and also created lot lines and stuff so that you could take a small lot now and build on it. So has that started to happen yet? No, but the groundwork has been done, okay? So, and the city is also really open to listening to your plan. How can the city help? Sometimes we're a pass-through grant, so that's happening now as we speak. So there is things that the city can help with, so.
Great. Well, Connie, I think we should give Connie a round of applause for what she said already. So what I conceived for this part of the meeting is just to have an open dialogue, because I bet a lot of you have ideas of what the city might be able to do. There are creative things that aren't necessarily part of the traditional city structure, but I'll give one example that just really struck me as quite extraordinary. When Doug decided, and I'm sure with Connie, that rather than doing the budget process in the same way in the smoke-filled rooms in at the city hall, and then just presenting it to the people and say, here's our budget, it's all done. Well, a lot of that work was done, and Doug took the time to bring all of the department chairs, all the people who passionately labor at what they do. They are one with water or one with whatever area they are. It's their life. And allow them to get on the stage and be the star for the moment. Really allow us to see the city rather than just being behind the scene. And when we need to raise fees, well, here's why. This. Here's the reality. And I think there's an analog in that experience that we could do with quite a few things. For instance, just one idea that I'll throw one out, and then I hope everyone else will throw something in the stone soup here. How about formalizing a way for entrepreneurs to interact with the city? Rather than just saying, well, come to City Hall or maybe talk to this department, that department. It's just an idea. What if we had a volunteer office of entrepreneurial facilitation, something like that? So that's my idea. Who's got an idea?
So I'm just going to follow on, but the logical place for that to be is right here. Oh, excuse me. So following up on your idea, Bob, that the logical place for that to be is here at the CoLab, but with explicit support from the university, the business community, and the city.
Right.
Oh, one more point. And that function would look a lot like, I think, the Indian Hills program in Ottumwa, and it would have like express curriculum layout. And for that, I would lean on Alex to see if he knows of models like this in the state of Iowa that we potentially could adopt.
Okay, great. Is somebody taking notes? Rachel, are you taking that note?
Rachel is not taking notes.
Yeah. I mean, just ideas that we need to, follow up on.
I understand you just started the downtown task force. Can you tell us anything or give any updates on that?
Sure. The downtown task force really is just started, a conversation with Chamber, FIDA, City, and we have not yet put together a formal task force, but we're working on that. But one of the things that came up really quickly is the Main Street program. So all of those people talk to their boards. All of us have downtown revitalization on our plates, things that we want to do, right? Things we feel are important. So when the Main Street program was brought up again, we decided, all the boards said, yeah, I think we should go down this road. So we applied, and now we're in the true application process. So we are in writing that application, has to be in to the state by May 24th. So, and we have a lot to work to do in these next 3 weeks to get that done. And part of that application, we just met with one of the state representatives this week. Part of that application is we have to identify 5 things that we would like to accomplish or get accomplished in the next 3 years, maybe 5 years. And even in that meeting, from my view, we identified 4 that are important. Are they the top of the list? I'm not sure yet, because we have yet to have that conversation, which will happen probably next week. However, so that's the first line of business. As soon as we get that application in, again, I think we're going to be putting a task force together of, I'm not sure how many people, we haven't even decided that. But certainly, we got to have the players in the room, downtown business owners. Also, one thing that has been talked about that has not been discussed with building owners downtown is there is a levy that can be done on downtown business owners. So they really levying themselves. And then all that money is used for downtown revitalization or building projects, et cetera. So we'll see about that. That discussion hasn't been, again, done with building owners. I don't know if we're going down that road, but again, it's the idea, it's up on the board, and we'll see where that takes. So that's we're just in the beginning stage of that task force.
And I think, if I'm correct, Mayor Boyer, I think there's an opportunity for businesses to write letters of support for that
Yes.
you can just send to Mendy McAdams at the chamber. So if you have a business and you want to write a letter of support for the Main Street program, just write a letter of support and send it to Mendy.
There are 51 programs through the Main Street program that we can take advantage of. So that's a big opportunity, and it's far-reaching. I know there's some grants available. I think there is some federal money, and some of that you can't get unless you're in the Main Street program.
I think that's a point that I wanted you to point out. Just maybe outline a little bit more what the Main Street program is, because it's incredibly rich. I mean, it's really amazing.
And if you go to their website, you can see all the 51 programs. And quite frankly, they're not all ingrained in my head. However, there is a lot of restoration, particularly historic restoration of buildings, which we know we've done some of that. We did a facade project a few years ago. Not every building was involved in that. So, you got to have skin in the game. But there is that. I know that we want to focus on, getting empty storefronts filled, right? So what do we need downtown? What kind of businesses do we need? And is there another business in another town that they're ready to duplicate themselves here? I don't know, but we have to ask that question. So more to be done on that. I know you will hear from Mendy about getting letters of support. Okay, good.
Yeah, I
good.
got mine. Yeah.
What classifies downtown?
Okay, good. Yeah, very good question. So, actually, in this Main Street program, it's going to be a little bit tighter than the cultural district. Based on our first run yesterday, we haven't totally finalized it, but it will go B Street, down to Washington, up to the railroad tracks, over to 4th Street, but there'll be some residential that will be cut out of there. So that's the basic right now.
What's the southern boundary again?
Washington. Yeah.
Other questions or comments? Yeah.
Hello. Thank you, Rex and Thursday, for providing this opportunity to talk with Mayor. As international student, we didn't get the chance to see. Thank you. And then I have a little query that we all know that the US has public transportation problem, and as an international student, we are facing here too. And is there any future plans that Fairfield plans to have public transportation so that we can easily go Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, so that it will be easy for us? That's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Okay, he's asking, is there any plans for public transportation to go to Iowa City, Des Moines, other communities, larger communities? I don't know of anything at this time. However, that said, there are private drivers who do take people there. So most of those people that I know that do that are taking people to the airport and dropping them off and coming back. However, maybe that's an opportunity to take you to Iowa City for the day, and you get to hang out, and that person hangs out. I'm sure. There's a cost, right? But I don't know anything at this time. So.
It's a great business idea, though. Get a van and have a regular schedule and have a route to Des Moines and a route to Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, and back and forth. Yeah.
I know years ago when the bypass was done clear to Des Moines, it cut, 20 minutes off? A person could commute, and there have been people who have commuted to Des Moines. So it's not an impossible thought that there could be people commuting to Iowa City, Des Moines, Cedar Rapids.
Question over here, Mayor.
So I just moved here in 2020, and I noticed that Pella really is having a great tulip festival. And I thought to myself, well, Fairfield, what attracts outside money to flow into Fairfield? And of course, I'm thinking MIU is the driver. Having moved here from Durham, North Carolina, which is dominated by Duke University, the Doris Duke Foundation provides a lot of neighborhood rehabilitation. So when I look at the Durham Economic Development Corporation, I see that Doris Duke and her foundation really sits at the board. And I've been kind of disappointed that I don't see anyone from MIU kind of represented here. And I'm wondering if there could be an invitation to MIU, like there's an integration in Durham with Durham EDC and the Doris Duke Foundation.
Well, I would say that has kind of waxed and waned over the years. Sometimes we've had really good participation with MIU. They have, some of their leaders have sat on like the chamber board, FEED, I believe. We have had on city council as well. So I think there's always room for improvement, no doubt. And one of the reflections that I have about Pella, I mean, because Tulip Time obviously is such a huge event. And years ago when we were doing strategic planning for Fairfield, one of the things that we recognize is that, you know, we don't have the silver bullet like they have. You know, they work on that all year round, right? Just like Mount Pleasant has Old Threshers. They work on that all year round. We don't have a silver bullet, but we thought we got a lot of little, I don't know, maybe you want to call them. Base hits. Yeah, base hits, bronze bullets, I don't care what you want to call it. And we thought that was maybe even a little better because we could have something smaller throughout the year, different areas doing different things. And I think that's what makes Fairfield interesting. You know, we will have people come from all over the country for the contra dancing. That happens once a year. MIU, many years ago, some students started an international festival. We had a parade from campus uptown. I thought it was a great thing. It happened for about 3 years. And the students who started it then graduated, and nobody took up the ball and ran with it. I thought that was a missed opportunity. And love to see that happen again. We've had a little bit of an international festival.
It was a big one.
Yeah.
For 2 years at the Fairfield Cultural Alliance.
Right. Right.
And then we ran out of gas.
Right? You know, so you can't have the same people doing it all the time. You got to get new people involved. And sometimes that's tricky. Yep, Christmas is a big deal around here. We do get some offshoot from Old Threshers. The Power Wagon Rally is a big deal. Fairfest. So we got the music thing happening, and it's going to get even better because I keep saying we're going to be the new Muscle Shoals. That's my tagline, new Muscle Shoals. So there's a lot of little things, and we want to grow all those little things.
I'll just want to shout out real quick, too. We do have the president of the student population over at MIU, and we are increasingly seeing more and more students and participants from MIU at this entrepreneurial gathering every Thursday. So I would certainly encourage you to go back to the faculty and students and staff and say, please welcome here, to especially those who are interested in entrepreneurship and integrating with the community, as well as starting businesses and the resources here that are getting stronger and stronger. So thank you very much for being here, and we're making progress.
Yeah. Question back there.
Okay, question first.
Thank you. I had two little questions. What are policies or what are support system that Fairfield has for new startups from the MIU that we have? people would want to do some startup, and how friendly do you think the city council is? One. And second is, if we want to license some companies in here, in the Fairfield start, what kind of there are some certain regulations that we need to comply with, and how friendly are those regulations for Fairfield?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Repeat your first question, because I had a point about that.
He wanted to know how supportive is the city
From the
council
city council.
behind.
Yeah, that's right. So we have an economic development committee. So when ideas come to the city, they'll generally go to that committee first. I think people are very open. Our council is very open to listening to ideas. And the thing that I always say is, we got 7 council members. They can't do it all. We need the community to volunteer and to bring ideas forth, because many of these people are working also, right? They've got regular jobs. So this is a very small part-time job of doing city business. However, they have seen and supported a lot of projects. And so I think they're open. Now, as far as regulation, I think from the city side, you're not going to find a lot of regulation that's tamping you down. I think that's going to be more. It depends on what topic you're talking about, and I don't know. Maybe
Licensing, you do through the state. There's a website to register a business.
yeah.
And that happens through the state.
Not here.
So she mentioned about licensing through the state. Now, the city of Fairfield does have, if you're going to have a business at your home, we do have a license for that. It's very minimal. I don't know, $50, $100. I can't remember. Small. Very small. And you have a regulation of, you can have a sign at your home, but it has to be small because you're in a residential area. And you can't have, 10 employees, right?
So,
because you're
Mayor,
in a residential area.
If a person was to start a business here, where do they go to the city to get the list of requirements and regulations around signage and property? Where would where would they
Come
go?
to City Hall, and you will talk to, most likely, our code enforcement officer,
Okay, thank you.
Weston McKee.
Got another one over here from Mr. Valentine.
This falls into the category of brainstorming and throwing ideas out, but I recall there was one of the great historical legacies of Fairfield, as I understand it, was the Chautauqua era. We have Chautauqua Park. Fairfield was a destination for summer, a full 3-month long-term tourists coming in for education, music, recreation. And, when you think of Fairfield's kind of infrastructure and our history, the place that, in my view, has got a huge potential for that silver bullet is a Chautauqua-like film festival process that includes the university. There's education, there's films, there's the producers and actors coming to speak. Because when you look at Des Moines, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, Washington, Ottumwa, I could envision easily a week-long or more event that would fill that theater every night. And I don't know who that entrepreneur is, but I am the events coordinator at FACC, somebody who's getting up every day trying to figure out how to fill this incredible infrastructure we have. But that's one for the idea books.
Yeah. And I'll add on to that, Stuart, because I love that idea. Yes, the Chautauqua series a long time ago would bring 5,000 people down to Chautauqua.
That was understood. There was a pavilion in Chautauqua Park that would fit 5,000 people.
Yeah. Booker T. Washington came. That's the one real famous person that I remember. Who else? Billy Graham. Billy Graham came here? I don't think I knew that. So I've always wanted an educational series. So again, whoever wants to take up this idea, I'll give you some, I'll add on to it. But I would love to see, the brain power come to Fairfield, talk about deeper issues. We're in a presidential year, right? And I don't want to go down the political road, but one of my frustrations about politics is all we get to hear is some surface level comments. It's hard to get in deep into what are the issues and the dynamics and the pros and cons. Remember Jim, well, a lot of people will remember Jim Leach, some people won't, but he was our congressman here. And one thing that Jim did eloquently, and again, this went to his character, and his integrity of character, is he would say, yeah, well, on this side we have this issue, on this side we have this issue, so how do we, kind of bring it together and solve the problem? He was masterful at it, and he just had this calm nature. And it just wasn't, as they call the drive-by shooting kind of things, comments. And so I've always wanted to have that educational speaker. We had Steve Covey here years ago, and he gave a talk. Now, that was through the university. The university has a lot of brain power. I'd love for that to happen more. I would also love to see a writer's weekend or a writer's week and book fair. Bring speakers here, but there's a lot of writers here, right?
Yes.
A lot of writers here in Fairfield, and I think there's opportunity there. I think it was this spring, the last book fair was being held somewhere up in northwest Iowa, and they're no longer going to do it. So we have an opportunity in Fairfield to take that over. I mean, I envision like Laura Bush coming here to talk about her literacy programs and reading books to little kids, famous people coming here. So those are a couple ideas that I had kind of in that space, that brain intellect.
That was great. And now on a different topic, I was just having a conversation with someone outside of Fairfield in terms of Airbnb spaces and how communities are starting to regulate that in a way that the people who are right now invested in that got things swept out from under them. So as someone who might be doing some Airbnb spaces in the future, are there any regulations that you can see coming up that's going to just totally mess up my business plan?
Not that I'm aware of. Basically, for an Airbnb, you are, right now the regulation says you can't do it in an R1, which is single-family homes, but other places you can. And, you have to pay, the tax, right? But Airbnb does that for you now. So those are the two big things. And I think when Airbnbs first came along, and again, I was in the business, I was paying my tax. That was one of my frustrations is, okay, now I'm competing with all these people who can undercut me and not pay tax. And that's not fair to me or the hotels. That was at the time. So, and I talked to the committee about that. And said it seems only fair to me that they have to pay the tax, just like a hotel does, because that's what they're doing. And the great thing was, years ago we said we need overflow housing. We don't have enough, guest space. We don't have enough hotels. So that has filled that void, or helped anyway. So, but as far as in the future, I don't see anything. But those are the two big things: pay the tax like everybody else, and at this point, people didn't want it in the R1s where they were just their private family homes. So I don't think so. As long as it's on the second floor. First floor is for commercial, second floor and above, I think is okay. I mean, I already know there's a 2 over here for Airbnb. So, and you have to go through the inspection process, right? So, but I don't know of anything new coming down the pike. No discussions.
We have a question over here.
It's just actually a comment. Since we're brainstorming about festivals, it's been my impression since I've been here, I can't imagine a smaller town with as many alternative health professionals, acupuncturists, massage therapists, all sorts of alternative medicine is here, including Ayurveda and a lot of these things. And I see that there's an opportunity for having a longevity and healthy aging expo.
Absolutely.
With expertise here. It is a growing need, and as I'm interested in cognitive decline, prevention.
Yeah.
So I could probably see that happening.
I
It would be a
definitely
great
think
attractor.
there's opportunity for that health tourism. And and again, maybe we need to get those people in the room together because they can share marketing dollars to do that. Come and, do different experiences. So, go to the Raj, go to Fairfield Sanctuary. And then again, if we can put together maybe a brochure of all the individual practitioners, and, get that critical mass of those people in that area, definitely there's opportunity there. Somebody's got to get behind it and organize it.
Got an idea, Mayor. What would happen, by show of hands, who would be willing to spend maybe 3 or 4 hours some Saturday afternoon or Saturday mid-morning, lunch, and then Saturday afternoon for some kind of a design charrette around a lot of these ideas, kind of pick through them, develop some protocols, develop some ideas for what could be done. Because we could stay busy for a long time just with the ideas that have surfaced now. But my experience says that you have to kind of consolidate them. The bread festival, the grain festival, right? That's another big thing that could happen. So, how many people would be willing to spend 3 or 4 hours doing that? Yeah, I think a lot of people would. Yeah. Okay, so good.
And Bob, even if we took these ideas and just said, okay, this Saturday, we're going to talk about this health tourism. We want all the individual practitioners, or if you've got a business that's in that area, come together. Let's talk about it. How can we do marketing dollars together? How can we help each other?
Question back here.
Actually, I have a comment. So I run Fairfield First Fridays Art Walk, and I've served on many, many boards in Fairfield. And I hear all of these amazing ideas. And we have so many established organizations and nonprofits that could work with people to do these things. But you have to have new blood. You have to have new people. You have boards that are aging out. So we need to recruit some of the younger people, some of the people that are new to the area. So if you have a specific interest, if you're interested in art, reach out to me. If you're interested in entrepreneurship, reach out to me or Kevin for collab. If you're interested in culture and history, reach out to the Cultural Alliance, Carnegie. If you're interested in animals, we have Noah's Ark. There was a post on Facebook the other day saying, we need to start an animal control, da-da-da-da-da. We have a nonprofit here that has been here for years. We should be supporting that and making it so they can grow and they can afford to do the things that they need to do. To do that, we all have to have fresh thoughts, fresh ideas, fresh blood.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Amen. Yep. Okay, we want to hear it.
Okay,
So, money talks. So as a business owner, and as I've connected with a lot of young business owners, if there was an incentive, like if we bring in 10% more people that buy things during the day, every business in town is going to increase. And so that's an incentive for me to get involved with a specific event that would help promote more traffic into this town, promote the products that I sell, and I know, all the restaurants in town would be 100% behind all of these festivals.
Yeah. I want to mention Breadtopia. Years ago, I had a couple at the B&B. They came from New York. They drove for the weekend. I said, you drove to Fairfield, Iowa for the weekend? I'm not getting that. Turned out the lady had a daughter who was gluten-free, and so for the previous couple years, this family had been experimenting with all kinds of things, and they went to Breadtopia for 200 pounds of grain. And I said, well, when you get that, I want to see it in the back of your truck, or their car. So they stopped back so we could see what they had picked up. They drove all the way from New York. I had somebody drive all the way from Florida and Texas to learn how to bake pies from the lady at Eldon, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
And that first couple you mentioned, they moved here. Those are our neighbors now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, we're food and also been to grain gatherings and bread festivals all over the country, and even one outside the country. Anyway, so ever since we've landed over here, it's in our sights to have a grain gathering here. So yeah, we do. This community does have so much talent and so much to offer. But also you have to have get in there and, like Galen said, inspire the people who are already successful, are already in it, because it's going to help them as much as it's going to help the whole town. So and students love it. Young people, come on. It's time.
Got a comment back here?
Yeah.
And again, this goes into the idea hopper, but everything we've just talked to beats a path to a business that would be an event planner, event coordinator, somebody that could say to you, say to Breadtopia, I'm going to organize and do the logistics to get your bread festival on the track. Give me your list of contacts, I'll organize it. I mean, we could get, and that's really in terms of shoulds, or like, if I'm thinking as a taxpayer, what would I like to see my tax dollars going into? At the city level and at FACC, for example, I would think that that'd be a good use of our collective tax dollars to invest in Fairfield through that kind of infrastructure.
But I just have to say real quick, Terry does a wonderful job at the tourist board doing things like this. And the thing is about that is she does Restaurant Week every year, and she has to work hard to get these restaurants to do the things they need to do, and they don't socially share and market, and it's really challenging for anyone to run an event and have everybody buy into it and really promote it. So there are some people that are actively trying to do this. It's just everybody needs to be a little bit more on board.
Goes back to Galen's point about money. Somehow there has to be a clear money incentive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're a part of, and interact with Terry, and she does a fantastic job. But, she's only one person, and we're also trying to run businesses at the same time. Right. So if it's Terry and a larger group of people that really just say, hey, we're going to come in and we're going to, do social media for your establishment, your restaurant. So we're not having to think about it, but we're on board, and we can even, throw money at helping this group do the stuff. That's the time is the most difficult thing for us.
And I think that's where Main Street can help fill in some of these gaps that we're talking about. Really? Yeah. So, yeah, how are we doing on time? I think the other thing is, if you want to be a champion of one of these things we've talked about, that's what, that always helps to have a champion.
Before we wrap up, Mayor, just real quick, and you and I are chatting about this briefly, any information you can share about plans for RAGBRAI, which is a great opportunity to publicize these wonderful events and activities here in this community. Can you speak real briefly to this?
Yes. So
about RAGBRAI?
I'll mention one thing, and there is opportunity to make money. I don't know how much, but the first vendor meeting will be next Thursday at 7 p.m. at the library. That's when you're going to find out what's it cost to be a vendor, what the regulations are. If it's food, you'll find out from, the health department regulations. So that's one of the big things.
7 o'clock.
At the library next Thursday night.
Very good.
I think that's the 9th, May 9th.
Make note of that.
All right. And that's a great segue into community announcements. So are there community announcements? Art Walk this Friday. She's not here, but
we're gonna be on the rotation here, and I think Eric Zuka and Irene Murphy will have stuff here, plus the entries from the Eco Jam, the costumes they were wearing will be on display here or something. So stop in if you're out on the Art Walk.
Okay. Other announcements.
There's a couple beautification commission planting events here uptown I think one's the 18th or the 25th. I forget the dates. Go to their Facebook page, you'll see it. If you want to help do some perennial planting and annual planting uptown here in the notes, that's happening in May.
Support your local farmers. Our first outdoor market's going to be this Saturday.
All right, hooray, hooray.
Okay, and this is another call for volunteer. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to remind everybody that we have that Fairfield 365 to post events on.
Yes.
Make sure we're using it because it's really a great site.
Great. And I'm putting the final touches or finishing touches on our top 7 narrative. Many of you are aware that we were honored by being in the Smart 21 Intelligent Communities Forum last year. They saw fit to bring us in again this year. And I would say our top 7 narrative is at least 2 times as good, maybe 3. But I'm finishing it up. And if anyone wants to read the thing before it's submitted, just connect with me. I'll send it to you when I get it into what we consider a final form. You look it over and see, did we miss anything? Because the deadline is 11:59 on Monday night. And Mayor Boyer and I sat the day of, and I hit, I think, the button at 11:55. I think you'd enjoy it, and I would like to have a lot of eyeballs because I'm kind of honchoing the thing, but it's really our narrative. It's a narrative about us. And Martin, Brad, and many people, the mayor and Doug and Melanie Carlson have all put pieces in. So, and Jason, I'm going to have you take a look at what we wrote about the media center. So when we submit it, it really will be from our community to the world.
And Bob, do you recall who's speaking next week?
Next week, oh my gosh, I generally look it up. No, I don't actually recall, but check the Facebook thing. It'll be great, whatever it is.
And I've got just two quick announcements. One, I've got EntreFest coming up in June 13th and 14th in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. For information about that, go to the nuboco.co website or look up EntreFest 24 and you'll get more information about that. But that's an annual gathering of entrepreneurs from all around the Midwest with guest speakers, workshops, programs, etc. Additionally, I was reminded to just let you know that I am here in Fairfield providing mentoring and coaching services. I know I've helped already a handful of startups making connections with resources throughout the state and the region. And I take appointments on Thursday afternoon. So if you have or know of entrepreneurs or you have an entrepreneurial idea and want to bounce it off of me, I'm here to help you. I am paid for in part by grant funding that Bob helped secure for NUBO to have a representative here to help encourage startup businesses. So I don't like to shamelessly plug myself, but in this case, I was reminded that I'd better do that. So I'm here at the CoLab, and we'll gladly like to learn about what you're working on and find ways that I can help. That being said, any other announcements? Yes?
I don't know if Frank Chicola mentioned, there's a new ceramic studio. There's a ceramic studio in town behind Breadtopia through Deep Green Machine. So
that's great.
Look for, we've got classes coming up in May, so we'll probably be doing some demos in the park during Art Walk.
Excellent, excellent. All right.
Great.
That about wraps it up. Let's give the mayor and Mr. Ferguson a round of applause. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day and week. We'll see you next Thursday, Attraction Thursday.